Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Growing a Healthy Child. My name is Meryl Fury. I am President and CEO of Plant Based Nutrition Movement, where we are all about children's nutrition, at least 80% of the time. Today, we are speaking with Dr. Patrice High, who is someone I have had the pleasure of meeting recently. And just developing a delightfully warm and easy relationship with this. She's an amazing professional. There's no good words to describe what I have come to know of her. She's warm and charming and caring and generous and very tolerant of my wild behaviors. Really wonderful. Yes, beautiful, beautiful. So, welcome, Patrice. Hi. We
Well, thank you.
we'll be talking here for just a little bit. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Look how demure that is. Look how she's so lovely. Just I love her.
And I love your behavior.
Well,
But
you know what? It helps to be validated.
I want to emulate it someday. I do.
Oh, you know what? I'll be happy to teach you, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. Believe me.
Yeah, fair.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about Dr. Patrice's experience working with children. So she is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. She got her degree from Michigan State University, and then she went into family medicine, where she did a residency in Lancaster, PA. She's board certified in both family medicine and lifestyle medicine, which makes her just doubly powerful. That's all. And for over 20 years, she's been practicing clinical medicine as a physician in Columbia, South Carolina. So let's jump into it. So, Dr. Patrice, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be interested in lifestyle medicine?
Well, let's see. I am a wife and a mother, and then I'm a doctor. And I always found myself interested in helping my patients figure out ways to augment their medicines, whether it was with food, whether it was with movement, whether it was by sleeping better. But I didn't really know how to do that because they don't necessarily teach you all of that in conventional medical school. So I found myself trying to give people tools that I didn't even have in my toolbox, but I was really trying for a long, long time. And then I had my own health scare, so to speak, and decided to do some research. And that's when I found lifestyle medicine. And I used those tools to reverse my own weight loss, weight gain of 30 pounds from my baby. And then I realized my patients were much more engaged and much more willing to be engaged, which just made medicine much more fun for me.
Mm. So, are you saying, just to clarify, are you saying that when you lost the 30 pounds, your patients listened to you in a different way? Is that what
They
happened?
did. They did. So I think doctors are taught to tell people what to do. We're not always taught to partner with patients. And I felt like I've always wanted to be a collaborator with my patients, even though that wasn't inherently what I was taught. That's just sort of part of my being. But I wasn't able to lead by example. I've been overweight and or obese most of my life. Even if I look back to like the pictures of me as a little kid, I was the one with the godmother who always bought the chips, or I always had a bag of something in my hands. She loved me with food.
Yes,
Um,
right,
and because of that, I never had a chance to lose any of the baby fat that people lose.
right.
And so, even though I knew I wanted to help other people be well, I wasn't really quite sure how to help myself be well for a very long time. And so, once I found myself pregnant with the only baby that I had, he came with a 30-pound price tag. on my already obese frame,
Right.
which was really a problem. So the day that my child was at the top of the stairs screaming, a scream that I'd never heard before, and I ran up, it was about 12 stairs. I literally had to stop at the top of the stairs because I literally could not breathe. So he's still screaming. He still needs me, but I'm feeling like a failure as a mother, as a human, as a doctor, all of that in one foul swoop. And so I collected myself at the top of the stairs, attended to my child's needs, and then I realized something's going to have to change. I got to figure out how to find the tools for myself, how to find the tools for my patients, how to live long enough to raise this baby I just made, all
Mhm.
of that at once.
Mhm.
So, like most type A people, I started doing some research. Like, what did we do before Google? I don't know what we did before Google.
We went to the library.
We did, but I don't think I would have done that in this scenario.
Right, right, right,
So I'm
right.
super grateful for our access to information, even though sometimes it is not completely accurate. And that's a whole nother thing. But in my research, I found the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and I found thousands of studies, thousands of patients who had been in studies where they were preventing, improving, and or reversing things that I was arguing with my patients about all day long or trying to help them with in terms of obesity, which is where I was, diabetes, high blood pressure, early heart disease, even early Alzheimer's. And I was floored. And I was like,
Mm,
oh my goodness, I think I just found my tribe. And
mm,
so I took the pillars of lifestyle medicine, which are nutrition, physical activity, managing stress, managing sleep, avoiding risky behaviors, and then last but not least, feeling connected.
mm.
And I started to apply those to my own life. Especially, I started with nutrition because that really is the foundation of most of the other things. And then I was willing to stack other habits on top of it. So that is how I came to really understand that lifestyle is the foundation of wellness.
Yeah.
And my patients were very interested in not only watching my journey, but then I was leading by example, which is what I always wanted to do. So it was a very different conversation with them at that point.
Yeah. That is so powerful, you know, when we are going through our medical or nursing training or your physical therapy training or whichever version of
Mhm.
healthcare you're in, whichever specialty. I don't think I ever heard anybody say that it helps if you're embodying what you're teaching people, that you look the way that you don't you that you look healthy, you embody health yourself, right? We are taught to talk to people and to show people, and you can pull out books, and there's all kinds of amazing models we have. And you know, if you're a registered dietitian or somebody who's working with food, you can have those little food models that are made out of rubber and latex and plastic. You can show people all kinds of things, but it is a very challenging situation when the medical professional, the healthcare provider, doesn't look the part. And at that point, I'm I am sorry to say, people judge. People are judgmental, right? And we look at somebody and say, well, why would I want to listen to that person? They clearly don't know what they're talking about, or they're not living what they're talking about. And if they're not living it, why? How do they expect me to live it? Right?
I agree. I think
Mhm.
a lot of patients just check out because they see you not modeling the behavior that you're asking them for. Um, and if you can't model it, they're not going to appreciate anything that you say. And
Yeah.
that's why I think some patients are very comfortable just saying, just give me the statin or just give me the medicine because I don't want to work hard. You're not working hard. Why should I?
Right? It's obviously too hard for you.
It's obviously way too hard for you, and you're the one with all the tools.
Wow.
And patients also assume that we're taught all of that stuff. I had to do a completely separate certification to learn how lifestyle can be so powerful to wellness. Um,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's not that well, 20 some years ago, that wasn't taught in medical schools. We're getting a little bit better. We're not there yet.
Right.
Um, But certainly, I think most patients don't understand that your doctor doesn't know anything about nutrition. They were taught scurvy and beriberi and things to the test. We were taught low fat diets, but we weren't really taught what that means per se.
Right.
We were taught low carb diets, but we weren't really taught what does that mean. And so then we're all Googling, finding the wrong information and doing the wrong things. So yeah, it was really, really powerful. I didn't expect, um, I think I came to the party different to
How
begin with.
so? Tell us about that.
Well, I was more confident. I was more self aware. I was happier. I didn't even know I was unhappy. Well, I knew I was unhappy in medicine in some ways, but I didn't know that I was personally unhappy.
Mhm.
Not being able to lose this weight. I had lost and lost and gained, like most women. You lose for that event, your wedding, that
Right.
party,
Right.
whatever. But I had never thought about lifestyle as a way to longevity. Like I had never thought of connecting weight loss with longevity. Weight
Okay.
loss was for purpose reasons, which is what I
Hmm.
think most of us do.
Hmm.
And then we put it back on, and then we feel like a failure, and then we lose it again, and all the yo-yoing. But
Hmm.
once I started to look at health from a standpoint of A, I need to live long enough to raise this baby. B, oh, now I can actually feel better about who I am in my own skin. I showed up differently. Um, and I didn't necessarily expect that.
Yeah. Wow. That is so wonderful. Really. I wish, if I could wish for anything, I would wish that for everyone,
Right.
right? To
Yeah.
get to a place where you are literally comfortable in your own skin and appreciating yourself
Right.
as you show up with people.
Yeah.
That is a powerful, powerful thing,
Yep. Good, bad, or indifferent. Just appreciating who you are. It's
right?
so much, it's so empowering and it's so freeing, um, that, yeah, I really have found like a different version of myself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it certainly shows that you are um, at peace with who you are. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Makes you so fun and easy to be around. It's great.
Yeah. It's good energy. It's nice to have good energy, you know?
It is. Yeah, it is.
You don't necessarily realize you have bad energy until you have good energy.
I guess that's the way it goes for a lot of stuff, right? You don't miss the water till the well runs dry. There's all kind of sayings like that,
Yeah.
right?
You don't know what you know till you know, kind of thing. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. You don't know what you don't know. There's enough,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my questions here. Let's see.
Hmm.
So you are a family practice physician
I am.
and lifestyle medicine. Are you able to combine those two pretty easily with your patients?
I am. But it's in a consciously different way. The classic medical model with your 15-minute appointments doesn't allow, um, very well, I've come to find, the marriage of classic family medicine with lifestyle medicine. Now, it can be done, but I found for me personally, I needed more time with patients than that 15 minutes. Your nurse takes up 9 of them, asking what they're there for and
Right.
going over their medicines and all the things. And so for me, personally, I've decided to take those loves outside of the classic medical model, um, and more in a telehealth version of care so that I can allow for the time to help the patient walk through the pillars, help them figure out where their stumbling blocks are so we can figure out where we're going.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I'm probably more of a physician health coach now than I am just a classic family physician
Okay.
with a lifestyle twist, of course.
Right, right. So your name says New Empowerment Health.
Hmm.
actually here, just because I want to make sure people see it. I'm going to back up so people can see that. New Empowerment Health, that is Dr. Patrice High's business. Okay, now I'm going to zoom back in. All right. So is that what you're doing in your business? You're working with people in a more lifestyle medicine kind of framework?
Yeah, absolutely. So I support women, motivated women, who want to reclaim their health by using the power of their own lifestyle, and actually teaching them those pillars in order to look at what their health barriers are and to help them get where they're trying to go with their own health goals.
Great.
So, whether that's reversing your diabetes or certainly improving your diabetes, or losing some weight or stopping the yo yo dieting, we kind of meet her where she is and sort of walk her through a supportive process program. It's a 6-month program,
Um,
um, to help her get to the other side of that. And what I found is women tend to be the gatekeepers of the health of their families. And so if you can help her get well, she helps her children get well. And then we're propagating generational wellness. Um,
right.
and so that's, and of course, then, she wants her parents to get well and she wants her husband to get well. And so it ends up helping the entire family, which is why I went into family practice in the first place 20
Mhm.
some years ago.
Right, right. So, in your experience working with the mom of the family,
Mhm.
have you seen it play out where, just like as you described, where the mom starts feeling better, or the adult female in the house starts feeling better, and then she turns to the youngsters in the house and says, "Okay, you're getting on this train with me." Have you seen that actually play out?
I have sometimes. I mean, certainly every woman's different and every person comes to their experience with whatever their experiences are. So I think women, or people, not even just women, people in general, sometimes don't make a shift until there's a health crisis.
Mm,
And so, whether that's you were just told that you're pre diabetic and your A1C is a little bit higher, you've been told you're full blown diabetic and you had no idea, most of us have to find our why to get to the next level of whatever it is, whether it's your career or what have you, but especially with your health. Some people are preventative folks and they just jump in the deep end of the pool. Some people actually have to have a crisis first, unfortunately, before there's change.
yeah.
Typically, once mom gets motivated and maybe gets a little weight off and starts to feel a little bit better, she shows up better for her life. She shows up better for her kids. She shows up better for work. She feels better about herself. She's willing to stack habits that are positive. And with that, if she's the one doing the grocery shopping, she's now grocery shopping for the entire family instead of just for herself. Um,
Mm,
so some of the things that came into the home previously may not now, that were processed or over processed or highly sugared or what have you. She may stop buying soda, or she may back off as much soda as she and starts to wean everyone. She may start to bring more fruits and vegetables in the house and introduce those again to her kids.
mhm.
And she may even encourage them to, don't just say you don't like something, actually try it. And then you might surprisingly figure out that you do.
Mhm.
So I think it's important for us as the adults in the house, to model for our children, and to also be willing to step out our own comfort zones, in order to help everybody in your household get well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. The times I have seen families that are facing health challenges,
Mhm.
and especially where, the parents are very concerned about what's going on with a child. Maybe the child has some weight issues, or they're showing signs of diabetes, or there's all kinds of things, cancers, different
Sure.
things. Um, if if it if it looks like the child is going to have to be the only one to change their diet, that rarely goes well. right? The child is being isolated and almost feels like they're being punished, right? They don't get to eat McDonald's. They don't get to eat hot dogs. They don't get to eat Dora the Explorer cereal, you know, while the rest of the family is.
Mhm.
And that's just not a workable situation. But when it seems like it goes better when the whole family goes into it together. And
Right.
there will still be pushback, there will still be perhaps anger, um, mourning. There may be things, right, that come up, but it's way easier if everybody's all pulling the sled in the same direction.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah. And there's going to be parties and there's going to be, one-offs and whatever, but if the foundation is this is what we do at home, then those one-offs don't matter near as much.
right, right, right. Yeah. So, in your experience, because you're a family practice physician, which means, I mean, everybody knows what that is, but I'll just say it. That's, as we would say in public health, cradle to grave. All right. You're taking care of everybody from the very, very young newborn, you know, the infant to very most senior people. Um, have you noticed well, tell me what you see. Does it seem like you ever have you ever seen, maybe this is the question, have you ever seen like really thin parents who have children who tend to be more overweight or dealing with weight issues or major health issues?
Um, hmm. I I can't say that I've necessarily noticed that. Probably very rarely does the entire family come in all at once, first of all. It's either usually mom or dad
Mm,
with said child if that's the patient for the day. So you
right.
don't always necessarily get to see them all in one foul swoop. But mom typically is overweight. And sometimes if mom is thin, the child is not. We do see that.
Mhm.
I do see that. But I think this generation is obviously living in a very different world than you or I did. Like, yeah, we still
Yes.
had these chips back then. I was carrying bags of that, but we won't talk about that right now.
Mm,
Um, but um, because we live in such a over processed community with convenience food and all these things that we necessarily like our parents didn't have, I
right.
think that we've just over time watched each generation get more and more obese.
Yes.
Um, and so, whether the mom is thin or not, even if she's thin, that doesn't necessarily mean she's healthy. She can be
It's
unhealthy on the inside and thin.
it's true.
And then, the child picks up the other heavy set genes that are farther back in the family because she's eating the same way as mom is. Mom just had maybe a little bit better gene pool. So it's it is certainly a challenge because classically we've been taught that convenience foods make our lives better. And they're just convenient. They don't necessarily make our lives or our health better. They're
Mhm.
just easier to pick up and walk away with, and that's not necessarily always a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So true. I was just reading over these last several weeks. I've been kind of preparing, researching for, paper I'm writing. And there's a study that just came out. I'm going to say it was in February or March of this year in the British Medical Journal, connecting ultra processed food to 32 different diagnoses, 32 different types of illnesses,
Wow.
everything from weight, obesity, right, to anxiety and depression, to heart disease and diabetes, all 32 different ones
Mhm.
just from ultra processed food.
Right. And those are the ones we know about. That's the
Yeah,
scary.
right. That's what they were able to find.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's plenty
Exactly.
more, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really a problem. Even when, okay, so for American College of Lifestyle Medicine, they say a plant predominant diet. That's what
Yeah.
they recommend. And as far as a person wants to go into that, you certainly can, right? You can go all the way into, no sugar, oil, or salt. You can go no alcohol. You can go raw. You can go as far in that as you want to go. And the more vegetable and fruit and whole grains and nuts and seeds and beans and mushrooms that you can pile on your plate, the better, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But even if you're feeding your child all of that, and the ultra processed foods are still a big part of it, we are doing them a serious disservice.
We are. Yeah, we're losing the benefit of all of those macro micronutrients and phytochemicals when you add ultra processed items, because your body really does not know what to do with that stuff.
Right.
And so the way I explain it to my patients is, if your body doesn't know what to do with it, it either puts it in three predominant buckets. The bucket where we have lots of inflammation, the bucket where we turn on cancer cells that are naturally turned off, or the bucket where we just store it as fat because our bodies physiologically believe that some days there's going to be a famine. We want to be ready.
Right. And this might be useful, even though I don't know what it is, whatever this thing is.
Like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna slap it over here. And that's our central obesity, or our belly fat, so to speak. And that starts to negate all of the positive things that you're doing in terms of a plant predominant diet. And so it's really important to try to eat whole foods that don't have labels on them. And if you're going to eat things that have labels, keep it to a minimum.
Right. Yeah. It's so one of the other articles I was reading had to do with the amount of plastics in the environment, which is alarming when you start really looking at the amount of plastic everywhere. It's hard to avoid, even when you're being conscientious about it. It is really hard to avoid.
It is.
So when you're talking about buying food that doesn't have labels, that basically means fruits and vegetables, basically, or any version of fruits and vegetables. If you're buying animal products, it's wrapped in plastic.
Yep.
Right. It's got to have a label on it. If it's a dairy product, it's going to have a label. If it's any animal product, and then anything that is like a convenience food clearly has to be labeled, because that's the law. Sometimes you can, of course, go for canned vegetables, or you can go for frozen vegetables, beans, things like that. Those will also be labeled, but the vast amount of the processed foods that is going, I don't even know how to say that, it is part and parcel of our plastic problem. Is overwhelming. It's overwhelming when they start looking at how plastic doesn't break down in the environment for 600 to 1,000 years. That means it has never broken down yet so far, because we only started with plastics in like the 50s or something. So they have never seen plastic break down yet. So the guess is that it's 600 to 1,000 years.
Yeah, and if it's not breaking down in the environment, it's definitely not breaking down in you.
For real.
So
for real.
That's going to be a whole thing.
Right.
Is what kind of illnesses have we taken on because of plastic?
Yes. What have we done? What have we created?
Right.
I thank you, Patrice, for having this conversation. These are not easy conversations.
Sure.
These are they can be triggering. They can make a person sad. They can make people feel guilty. They can make me went, what was I doing? Why was I, eating that, feeding my children that? And that's not the point of these conversations at all. It's really just to open the eyes. Sure. And when we know better, we do better. That's the goal.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I had a little bit of mama guilt from dairy, because I didn't necessarily understand that dairy was a bad thing. All the 80s commercials, milk does a body good, all the things.
That's right.
And so I made sure my child had milk every day. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, that was totally the wrong thing.
Right?
And
Right.
and so, again, I'm glad you said that because I don't have these conversations to make women feel poorly about the mamas that they are. We use the information that we're given, but I'm at a place in my career when I want to empower women to not just follow the TV, but to actually think. There is no other mammal that gets liquid from another mammal except for us. There's
Yeah.
no other animal that does that.
Right. Not intentionally. No,
No, not
no,
intentionally.
no.
The
There's
mama cow, the mama goat, the baby goat does not go to the mama cow because she can't find her mama. Like that's not what they do. And
right.
we've been taught to do some things that just don't make sense.
That's right.
And so all I'm asking mamas to do especially when you're wanting to turn your health around is be mindful and think about, well, does that really make sense? Or is that just something I was told to do?
Right, right. And
Because I
then
think we've all been bamboozled at one point or another, you know?
yes, yes, most definitely. I think about myself. My mom was a gym teacher, phys ed, as she called
Mhm.
herself, phys ed teacher. And she was very for the time that she was working on it. Now she was, educated in the 50s, let's say.
Mhm.
She was fully dedicated and knew that we were supposed to get 3 square meals a day. And one of the squares to the corners, milk was one corner and meat was another corner. So she certainly made sure that we had that at least twice to 3 times a day,
Mhm.
not knowing that certainly I was allergic to it. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
spent years struggling with upper respiratory infections and ear infections and skin issues, skin eruptions. And I never had the GI stuff, never had an upset tummy. I was always good like that. But man, it played out in other ways. And there's my mom doing her best, her level best, right? That's what she knew. She
Yeah.
was a great mom, but she had been misled in that area for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
I think a lot of us have been, and we have to give ourselves some grace for that, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
And when you know better, like you said, you should do better.
You certainly have the opportunity to do better. I know sometimes turning those habits around can be challenging.
Can be. They can be, but what I've found is there's easy, especially now with the plethora of products on the market, there are easy swaps for things now that maybe wasn't so easy 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and so it's just a matter of somebody helping you with the tools when you're
yeah,
ready.
yeah, yeah. I agree completely. So, for a mom
Hmm.
who is ready to hear this conversation, is thinking, it's time. I got to do something. You know, um, what is one thing that you would recommend if they were ready to go further, go deeper, bring their children along, have the conversations with their husband, their mother, their father, their circle?
Hmm.
What is one thing do you think that you would suggest? One thing they could do?
I would suggest um, a clean out first.
Mhm.
Um, if you've got ding dongs or Twinkies or whatever the guilty pleasure is that you want to buy every day because it's, manufactured to make you do that and to sort of hijack your brain. I would I would try removing some of those things from your environment first. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go cold turkey from the beginning, but I think most of the time when you have the desire for whatever that thing is, in that moment, if you either drink a bottle of water or wait, that moment goes away.
Mhm.
And if it's not in the house, 90% of the time, I'd even hazard to guess 95% of the time, you're not going to go get it. You are not going to go in your pajamas and get in the car and drive to whatever to go get the thing. So I would say the most important first thing is to, like, when you're really ready, is to clean up your environment first, so that when you're bringing all those good fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, all of the good things in, a, you've got room for it, And B, those are the things that you're going to reach for when you have that moment when you're just hungry. And then you're making good habits in terms of what you're feeding your brain, what you're priming your brain, what you're priming your palate with, first and foremost. So I think a really clean environment is a really important place to start. Because again, if you bring all of the good stuff in and you're still consuming the bad stuff, that doesn't really help us in terms of wellness and health and longevity.
Right, right. Agreed. That's also another thing to model for the children in the household.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not. I got so many words for that, like duplicitous, right? We're not playing both ends against the middle. I'm going to make believe I'm really dedicated to this, but on the side, I've got this little stash of junk that I dip into periodically, or I've got a whole cabinet full that I dip into periodically, and I struggle with myself, and I go through all these ups and downs. I mean, that's part of the modeling also.
It is.
It's
Well, and sometimes that's difficult because the people in your family don't want to be along, right?
right.
And so I can tell you in my own family, I have that. My husband's Southern, I am not. My son was born here, so I guess technically he's Southern.
Right.
But they are not as plant forward as I am. And that is a struggle in my household. But as a woman, I try to help them see as much as I can. And I had to realize that my health was 100% my responsibility.
Mm.
And I can't be responsible to a point for what other people do because my 30 pounds was my 30 pounds. When anybody else's 30 pounds, it was mine. And so all I can do is model and encourage and recognize that it's what's most important for me is to get to the goal that I have set for my health. And that has helped us as a family not be so divided, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you learn good information, you want to share, right? When you learn something that you know is going to help somebody, you can't help but share it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gangbusters when I found out about lifestyle medicine. I was trying to change everybody.
Yes.
And not everybody can receive that. Not
Right.
everybody's at a place to receive that. And so I had to come to a place where I understood that, okay, this is what I'm going to do because this is what I need for my own health. And if y'all want to try, I'll make enough for everybody. If y'all want to use what I'm eating as a side, that's fine. But it didn't go well when I tried to change everybody in the house because I was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even really, I didn't even look at it that way. I was just trying to share.
Right.
So sometimes you just have to keep you have to lead by example. Let me say it like that.
Right.
And that has helped my household quite a bit, just in terms of, oh, that looks really good. Can I try some of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, sure you can. Here you go. Here's your bowl. And then I giggle to myself about it and I keep moving.
Right.
I don't say I told you so. I don't engage in any way. I just continue to share on a much more subtle level. And it's been much easier.
Yeah.
So for any woman who wants to make the change, it's much easier to change your little kids than to change your teenagers because, that's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They can be changed too, but that's a different thing. And, the husbands may or may not until they have their own health crisis. And then, unfortunately, sometimes that's the turning point.
Right. Right.
You know,
And even then, sometimes they won't. I agree with you 100%. It is an individual journey.
it
I
is.
I certainly have, I look back on it and I kind of shake my head. But I have spent many, many, many hours talking to people about food.
Mhm.
They don't want to hear it. My sister told me the other day, they don't want to hear it. I'm like, but how can they not want to hear it?
Yeah.
This is so important to me. What is the matter with everyone?
Well, but I think that maybe I don't want to hear it isn't what I would say. Maybe they're not ready to receive it.
That could be.
And that's
Yeah.
not to say that you're not like affecting a subtle change. And sometimes it's just that spark that they need.
Yeah. And it's the sowing of seeds, right?
It is.
Some
Yep.
point, you're throwing seeds on the ground. You might throw millions
Yes.
before one or two or five catch, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that thing.
Yep.
So yeah, it is a journey for
Mhm.
everybody. Everybody's on their own path with that. And some people, they may or they may not. That's what
Right.
I have to accept that. It doesn't stop me from doing podcasts or going and speaking publicly.
Exactly.
But I have gotten a lot less militant about it.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. Because I think we all, again, we want to share, and how we share is, did you know? Da 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 da.
Right?
And some people just are like, whoa, that is a lot. Back away. um, and so
Excuse me, but my mother fed me pork chops. I know she loved me, so I'm not listening to you. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And it doesn't. You don't even mean it that way. That's
Nope.
just how they see it with their own, with their own spectacles at the time.
That's right.
Um, but ultimately, I think if you sow the seeds, the ones that catch continue to light your way to sow some more seeds.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so that's how I look at it now.
very well said. I'm going to write that down. All right. Well, we are coming up on the top of the hour already. Um, where can people find you if they would like to learn more about what you do? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah. So um, I would say the best way to find me is through my business email
Okay,
at hello at Dr. Patrice, Patrice, hi, HIGH.com.
great. So, anyone interested in learning more about what Dr. Patrice does, engaging possibly in her services, um, having an experience that will change your life, most definitely, please reach out to her on email and start a conversation. That would be an amazing step to take for yourself and for your family. On that note, my friend, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time and your candor and your energy. And you're being us, you're standing for the health of women and children and other people also, but in particular women and children. I so appreciate what you do.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me. I am honored by our friendship. So thank you.
Yes, me too. Me too. You are so welcome. My pleasure all the time.
Likewise.
Yeah. On
Take
that, we will bid our audience adieu. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
take care, everyone.